Get cool stuff for what you were going to do anyway. Drink beer. With Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt, you can just snap a photo of your receipt and upload it to the website to rack up points for exclusive merch. Get points for every purchase, whether you're grabbing a pint on draft, a case for a party, or a tall boy at the stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you buy Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Sign up now at rewards.labattusa.com.
Hey, Steve, where Paulie at?
Here we go.
I'm checking out. I will respond to you, but I'm done for the week. I'm done.
Steve is my favorite part of the show. How's that?
Yes. I like that. Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Check for sound.
Pleasure to be on there talking with Paulie, man. He's a good dude.
I'm an idiot. I'll just shut up and let you talk. I was trying to help.
And shout out to Tupac.
3, 2, 1, and
This is Orange Nation.
Well, hello, Paulie and Steve.
With Stephen Fonte and Paulie Sibilia.
Check it out. Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to have you with us. Alongside Paulie Sibilia, I'm Stephen Fonte as we welcome you into a Thursday edition of Orange Nation. Good to have you back, Paulie.
Yeah, I called an audible. I appreciate everybody that's here working today because we were supposed to have today off. But being the big, mean, bad boss I am, I said, let's get in here and talk Syracuse basketball and AD. And
yeah, and we will do that. We've got Mike Waters lined up at 1 o'clock. We've got the voice of the Orange, Matt Park, lined up at 1:30. Plus, we'll mix in your phone calls throughout at 315-437-7644.
I'm sure the people listening on the radio are so mad that they don't get to hear Quadir Copeland.
He had a really good game yesterday.
Play today. So.
Yeah. Where do you want to begin?
I don't know. Like they apparently have a AD out of left field, but I hate social media, Steve, because I keep seeing like even ESPN's doing it, and I'm going to get called a glazer for this. Like everybody keeps quoting Jim Beheim as saying that JJ and Donnie had bad years and it cost. It's not wrong, but he also says everybody always leaves out at the end. Ultimately, it's the coach's responsibility, and he lost his job. You got to get the best out of your players. But I don't know why everybody's clutching their pearls to say JJ and Donnie didn't live up to their billing this year.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, I'd throw Nathan George into that as well. I mean, I think their top three players, again, you look objectively at it, I think you can look at it and say they didn't perform. But you're right. I mean, ultimately it comes down to wins and losses. Ultimately it comes down to, the coach getting the most out of their players, and, they fell short across the board. Coaching, players, they fell short across the board, and this is, why we are where we are.
He also, in our Estic says, the Whopper, he had nothing to do with the Autry hire, he said. Do people remember how the Beheim era ended? I don't think Jim Beheim was on good terms with the athletic department when Adrian Autry was hired. He does, and I'm not defending the guy in a way that but it's just crazy to me that people think he runs the athletic department.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He was a great coach. Did they probably ask him if they thought Red was a good hire? Yeah, it's ultimately the AD's job.
Correct.
To do that. And he fundraises for the university now, guys. That's it. That is it.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, the whole reason we're doing a show today, I see some people in chat saying, I thought there was no show. It's because of the AD news, right?
Yeah, and all the breaking, the Syracuse is like a headline on ESPN because Jim Beheim said JJ and Donnie were at fault. It's partly right.
So, Bryan Blair, Toledo's athletic director, 2022 is when he took over there, and they've had a lot of success since then. They've won a football MAC championship during his first year, men's basketball regular season championship in the conference in the 2 years that followed, 13 championships across all sports since 2022. He's known for being a fundraiser. Obviously Bryan Blair not on everybody's radar when this got started, but they, you talk about going inside the family or outside the family. Bryan Blair has zero connections really to Syracuse University other than Vince Karras is here as the defensive coordinator. But outside of that, this is completely outside the family hire, and we expect to get official word today, and then my understanding is that if all goes well and Board of Trustees signs off on this, that you would see some sort of announcement, formal announcement, formal introduction sometime next week. I would guess. Yeah, and he's going to pick the basketball coach, and I think this kind of throws a wrench in it, Steve. Like he's a great example of it. Everybody's throwing names out, and the bottom line is you can get on Twitter and say what you want. We can get on a radio show and say what we want. We have no idea what is going on up on the Hill. None. We're sitting here breaking down names, and this happens. We don't know. Nobody knows. You can have sources. You can have people in your ear. It's... we just don't know, and this guy could have a basketball coach in mind that none of us have even thought of yet. That's a fair statement. That is true. That could be the next basketball coach. That's a true statement. I will say this. Syracuse has a plan. Like, we may not know exactly what the plan is, but for all the people who say, they're so far behind the eight ball and they have all this change, and Wildhack's going to make the hire of the next head coach. They're not going to have an AD in place. They obviously have a plan, and we've seen it play out over the course of the last week. I think the timing of the Mike Haney announcement was intentional. I think they've been working behind the scenes on that for a while. The timing of Adrian Autry's firing, and then this news leaking that the AD has been targeted later that day, again intentional. The whole time, they obviously have a plan. And as soon as you get an AD in here, and it sounds like they've identified the guy, they're waiting on the Board of Trustees approval, you get him in here next week. Now all of a sudden they're caught up, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't hire anybody who's still playing anyway at the moment. Now, you can have those conversations and back channel, reach out and gauge the interest and all that. You can get the ball rolling. I'm sure they already have. Yeah. But now you're up to speed. Yeah. So everybody who said that, they're going to fall behind and this is a train wreck and they don't have a plan, they obviously have a plan. And now, whether or not they've got the right people in place, I mean, time will only tell. If, this is the right chancellor and the right AD, and if the AD hires the right coach, only time will tell on that. But they have a plan. They're executing the plan. And, again, we'll see how it all plays out. Yeah, and someone in the chat, it's moving so fast because everybody's so angry, that the AD can't be the sole person making the choice. Yeah, he can. Will the coach have to be approved and get vetted? Yeah, but he's going to make it's ultimately on his shoulders, so he's going to make the decision, and then it will be approved, is how I would look at it. Will they have a search committee? I doubt it. Do you think they'll have one? No, they're going to do a nationwide search. They'll interview people that they think they should. And I firmly believe, Paulie, and you tell me if you agree or not, but I firmly believe this is further along than people think, right? And I don't know how long ago they interviewed this guy. But I'm saying not necessarily him, but the candidates and the vetting process, and who's the vetting process maybe, but I don't think you're going to go to him and say this is our list, because he might have someone on a list. He might, but I think a lot of the legwork behind the scenes has been done, and then I think he comes in and and he might have somebody in mind. He might interview somebody that hasn't been on the list. I get all that, but this isn't like he's going to sit down on day one and be like, oh, okay, what's on my list today? We got to find a head coach. No, the process. He knows who Brian Hodgson is. He knows who Jerry Becker is. I'm saying, but I think both with him and with the university, I think the process is a little bit further along than that, than just starting fresh whenever he arrives. That's my point. Yeah. Yes, I do tend to think that, and I also don't think it's hard to know who the good coaches are. We as fans can see it. Yeah, so I think they're going to move. John Wildhack talked yesterday about, moving swiftly and with purpose, and I think you're going to see that. I think this is I don't think this is going to be a long search, and, it might be the kind of thing where they've identified the guy and you wait until they're out of the NCAA tournament and then you make it official. So, yeah, I think within the next couple of weeks, all of this could be locked up. Chancellor, AD, new coach could all be locked up. You hope by April 1st. You know, the portal opens officially on April 7th. I know guys are kind of figuring out right now where they're going to go, what they're going to do. But if, you know, as long as you have that person in place by April 1st or so, that gives you a week, you know, for the players to figure out what they're going to do, and then the portal opens on the 7th.
Yeah. LA Orange says they released Klein, a deal is done. No, they got rid of the whole staff. They are cleaning house. That's all it means. It doesn't mean there's a deal done. They just cleaned house. Well, they did what you wanted them to do. Like, would you guys have been happy if Klein was still here? No, the new coach is going to hire his GM. The new AD is going to hire his basketball coach.
You know, sometimes you will see a holdover, right? Especially with football staffs, right?
Yeah.
There might be a couple guys held over from one staff to the next.
Syracuse football did it.
Yeah. Well, right. I mean, Nunzio's a good example. He was the interim head coach, and then he stayed on staff, and you'll see that from time to time. Alex Klein's only been here since summer of 2024, and really that first year he didn't really have a say in the roster. Last year was really the first year where that roster was his, and he could put ownership on that. So I think the thought was that maybe he would stick around at least until the new coach was hired, and there would be that transition. Even if they ended up parting ways with him and he brought in his own guy, there would be that. You would at least have that constant still there who's involved with player development and transfer portal and, identifying who they're going to go after. But the fact that they did it, it could mean either. It could mean either they already know who it is and that guy's got his own guy, or it could mean that, that they just wanted to clean house and hit the reset button. So, you can read into it however you want, but
other people are reading into it that means it's not a Syracuse guy that's coming. No, it means the next coach is going to hire his own GM, whether it's Jerry Hodgson,
Like I said, you can read into it however you want. I mean, it's to me, it's not a definitive indication one way or the other. They decided they're starting over, and they're going to bring in somebody else, and it's going to be a brand new staff, top to bottom, and you hope that you find better results.
Yeah, we'll all find out together, right? Just like we found out about the new AD together.
Yeah,
and we'll break it down. Like, this guy seems to have done a very good job everywhere he's been. NIL is important. And he's ahead of the curve on that, it looks like.
It does look like that. I mean, from a resume perspective, it's very impressive. He's been at Toledo for a little bit here. Prior to that, he was at Washington State, South Carolina, Rice. He's got experience at all of those different places, but he's been the AD at Toledo since 2022, and they've had a lot of success since he's been there. And he was obviously there as NIL exploded. First MAC conference member to have its own collective. He's well versed in the NIL landscape, in fundraising, and young guy. He's only 40 years old, and it
making way more money than me.
It seems like a good hire. Again, from the outside looking in, face value. You look at the resume. It looks like it checks a lot of boxes.
Look, NIL is very important, Steve, and it's going to be important for the next head coach. I don't know where the NIL coffers are at right now, but they better have a set amount for this next head coach that they can promise for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Or they're in big trouble. And I don't know if this guy can do it quickly or whatnot, but you're going to have a guarantee, right? You wouldn't think a coach would come in on, well, we're going to try. We've set our goal at getting to.
Yeah, you want to know what it's going to be.
Because I think
what do I have to work with?
I think Syracuse set their goal to be at 10 this year, and I don't think they got there.
Doesn't sound like it.
And Jeff Goodman, who is being roundly bashed by Syracuse fans a lot because he said something that we've said multiple times on this show and has gotten us murdered, Steve. This is how important NIL is.
The number obviously is as important as anything, right? The number being how much money you're going to have for next year. A lot of coaches are scared off because the number isn't high enough to fall in line with the expectations that come with this Syracuse job. People aren't quite understanding of like, this isn't as good a job without 10, 12, 14 million. So the resources have to improve. I'm not sure they're going to improve enough to get a Josh Schertz, even a Brian Hodgson. I think people would think that sounds preposterous. Why wouldn't Brian Hodgson, who hails from upstate New York, go to Syracuse? How would you possibly turn down Syracuse? Well, you look at another job like Providence right now. They're going to have more money. Rob, they're going to have more NIL, more resources to get players. And frankly, that's what matters most to a lot of these coaches right now. So I think Hodgson's certainly in play here. Don't know, number one, if he's the guy. Number two, if he would even take it.
It's true. People don't want to hear that Providence had a higher NIL this year.
Yeah.
Than Syracuse.
Well, that goes back to the Big East versus,
it's so important. And we all hate it.
Yeah.
Q-Source says Goodman is off. We have 11.5 to 12 mil for the next coach. You don't know that. You don't know that because what if money can get pulled? You don't know that. You don't know that.
I would expect that it's going to be more. I think that they're going to make sure that it's more.
Yes, and even if Red was staying, it would be more. Like you have to have more.
Yeah. Right, but you also need people to commit money, right? And I think that's where bringing in a new head coach helps, is that it's a fresh start, fresh optimism, fresh perspective, and you hope that you get a bump in the NIL initially, and then that you make the most of that bump, and it keeps it going. That's why we talked about with year one under Fran Brown, why it was so important to get off to a fast start, was you hope that feeds the next several years, right? That you show people what it can be. And you need the financial support. If you get the financial support, this is what it can be here in Syracuse, and we know what it can be from a basketball perspective. Mm-hmm. They got to get back to that, and hopefully they can capitalize early.
Yeah. You want to take our first time out?
Yeah, that was our opening drive, brought to you by Burdick BMW of Cicero. Phone lines open all of hour number one. Mike Waters coming up at 1 o'clock. Matt Park 1:30. Back after this on ESPN Radio.
Catch the Syracuse basketball pregame prior to every game. Built by IKEA.
Hey,
we are the pulse of the orange.
Prankster, is that your name? Said the women's basketball seemed to do good in the state of poverty. Women's basketball overall has lower NIL than all the ACC schools. But I have heard that Syracuse gave a larger portion of rev share to women's basketball than most schools. That's just what I have heard. I don't know if it's true, but my sources have told me that.
I've got a Toledo beat writer that is willing to come on if we want to talk, but he said it has to be before 1 because Toledo plays at 1. Do you want him at 12:30?
Can he do tomorrow?
Oh.
That way, yeah, do tomorrow. That way, because then tomorrow we'll know that the meetings happened and whether he's approved, right? Aren't they meeting today?
Yeah, I think we're probably here.
Yeah, so let's do it tomorrow. It's not Jim Beheim's program at all, guys. None of us, I'll talk NIL next. None of us know because everybody's mad about Jim Beheim saying that they were bottom and Wild Hack saying they were higher than half. Neither one of them know. I don't know. But LA Orange, it's not a black mark on the show. Pete Thamel gets it from every school.
Like if we went on the air, or if we went on the air after they lost and said sources tell me that he's going to be, like, we all knew he was going to be fired yesterday.
But he's talking about the AD.
Oh, the AD.
No, they go to ESPN.
Here's the thing. I would say my guess is Thamel didn't get that from a Syracuse source. Thamel got that from probably an outside source at college. I can't imagine. I think you and I feel pretty comfortable with who we believe Thamel's really good source is. Mm-hmm. I don't think that came from SU. I think that came from outside SU. But who knows? Good for him. That's what his job is. That's what he does 24/7. He's good at what he does. He's got a lot of sources, a lot of connections. Yeah, I did not know about Blair. But a lot of this other stuff that he quote unquote breaks, it's stuff that gets leaked to him early, or stuff that we know is going to happen, but it we don't get official word. He gets it leaked to him.
Damn, we got 155 people watching. Thank you. You guys are cool. Let me open the YouTube chat too. See what those dopes are up to. Got the Twitch dopes. Just regular bumps today, Steven. Because we didn't vote.
We did not vote yesterday.
Oh, I'm gassy. I got 5 on it, Steve. Lunes. This is a banger, right?
It is. No arts of the day today. We had other things going on yesterday. Never voted.
Yeah. So I want to hit on NIL also, Steve, today, because John Wildhat came on. All right, let's start from the beginning. All right. Randolph Childress came on the show, right? A while back, and asked us where we thought Syracuse landed in the NIL. You said around 9th. I said 10th, right?
Yes.
We had John Wildhack on, and I asked.
I think I said middle of the pack. That's what I said.
Yeah, because you're soft and won't take a stand on anything.
I did take it. He threw it out to us, and I said about middle of the pack.
Soft.
Okay.
And then
and you said 10th.
Yes, because I'm a man, and I take something and I stick to it.
You were taking a stab at that. I think middle of the pack is accurate. 10th was a guess.
Yeah, because that's what he asked us to do.
Okay.
And then John Wildhack came on and said Syracuse is upper, in the upper half.
Yeah.
So
he did say that.
Yeah. And then Jim Beheim yesterday, I don't know what the hell he's talking about, it compared Syracuse to Georgia Tech and Pittsburgh and BC. I tend to think the guy who thinks the next head coach should get a lot of NIL is going to exaggerate in one direction and say, yeah, we were bottom of the field. And the guy who's responsible for getting the NIL is probably going to exaggerate a little and say, yeah, we're up here, so he doesn't look bad.
Yeah.
I had a national writer tell me it's kind of like a guy thing with the NIL. You ask an AD...
the size of your budget?
Yeah, size of your budget, and he's going to add an inch or two.
Yeah.
So I tend to think they're in the middle, and it's just not enough right now.
Yeah. I tend to think they're in the middle. Everybody asks says they're in the middle. Anybody who's, not associated with Syracuse says they're in the middle.
Want to take a call?
I do, but I need to know who it is first.
Call, man. It's so big that we can't even... Scooter in Jamesville.
Scooter, what's going on?
Jeez. Scooter Dwayne syndrome continues. Couple things, guys. It seems like when Syracuse has a national story, it's broken nationally. Does Syracuse just reach out and forget there's a local media? I mean, this is broken by ESPN. When Syracuse had the second time they were investigated, it seemed like we found out because of the national media. Just curious. Does Syracuse just reach out and just forget about the local media, or is the local media just told just to, don't break it yet? Or I mean, I'm just surprised that Mike Waters didn't know about this before Hamill.
About the Bryan Blair you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, you'll go back. You can go back and when we had a player suspended before the tournament, it was actually found out from I think it was the Athletic. Billy Early, when he disappeared, Coach Beheim says to the local media, stop asking when he's coming back. Well, I happened to watch him, Mike and the Mad Dog, and he's telling Mike and the Mad Dog Billy Early's going to come back in November. It just seems to be the national media seems to break the stories before the local media. I just wonder if they're just shut out.
I don't know, what Mike Waters knew or didn't know, or I can tell you what I didn't know about Bryan Blair prior to yesterday in terms of that he was in the mix or, he was, tabbed the guy. Paulie and I were talking about that during the break. I don't know that Pete Thamel's source was a Syracuse source on this one. And that's what he's obviously paid to do is he's paid to break stories for ESPN. He's got sources everywhere in every conference, including in the MAC. So I don't know that this was necessarily a Syracuse source that tipped him off to it.
Pete Thamel breaks everything.
Yeah,
in college sports. I
was not aware of Bryan Blair.
If Pete Thamel beats you, you're welcome to the club.
Yeah. So I don't know, Scooter. We're gonna have Mike Waters on later. We can ask him if he had if he was in on this. But no, I don't think this is a case where somebody had it and sat on it. I
knew all along.
Yeah, you knew all along.
Yeah.
You just
Jim Beheim.
The script said not to
Jim
announce
Beheim,
it quite
Coach
yet.
Autry, and I were all hanging out by the pool, talking about the
he
next.
Said this is going to be the guy. Just don't say anything. Yeah. Now, are there things that we are told and it's off the record and we get them from background? Of course, those things happen, but not in this situation, not in the Bryan Blair situation. Mark in New York City's up next. Mark, what's going on?
Hey guys, just really looking at this coaching search, it kind of just almost seems like it's kind of down to Hodgson and Jerry, and I'm just looking at Hodgson's coaching record here. I mean, he was at Arkansas State for a couple of years, never made the NCAA tournament. In fact, he lost pretty early on in the conference tournaments. In fact, one year it looked like he was the 1 seed and he kind of lost in the second round or something like that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem like South Florida's a lock for March Madness quite yet, and they haven't even played a conference tournament game. So the jury's still out to see how he'll do in the conference tournament. But, if they were to lose and not get a bid to March Madness, I mean, I just, I know everyone is going crazy that thinking that this guy's the answer, but he hasn't proven he can win in March yet. And that kind of gives me some concern. And that's where I just think, Jerry takes the cake here. I mean, the way he just coached his team, he was down his 2 best players, really only played with 5 players. And the coaching was really a masterpiece in that conference tournament. I think that's just Jerry's experience in March is just kind of what we're looking for. And I'm just curious if that gives you concern that Hodgson doesn't really have much March experience.
I mean, I think it's something worth talking about. I think no matter who you hire, for the people out there, Mark, who say, I know that this guy will succeed, or this has to be the guy, and I'm not saying you're saying that because you're not, but we get that a lot, that it has to be this guy or SU's not even trying. I don't believe that. I think that there are several coaches who could come here and do a good job if given the proper resources. I think it's a risk either way. You could lay out a scenario where Jerry goes to another, let's say Pitt, for instance. Jerry goes to Pitt, Hodgson comes here, and Hodgson doesn't work out for whatever reason, and Jerry's great, and people are going to kill him and say, how could they not have hired Jerry when they had the chance? Or what if the opposite happens? What if Jerry comes here and it doesn't go great, but Hodgson goes to Pitt and kills it? Then everybody's going to crush it. I don't know. I mean, it is a crapshoot. I think you identify the best candidates for the job, and you gather all the information, and you go with your gut, Paulie.
Yeah, Mark, I got a question for you, too. What makes you think it's down to 2? Because it seems to be amongst fans that it's down to 2. What makes you think it's down to 2?
Paulie, it's a good question because, I'm only just kind of, you're making a great point because, the way this athletic director search just went down, like it almost seemed like we were down to 2 people, right? Heather Lyke and Nick Carparelli. And then all of a sudden, we see this name pop up yesterday that no one was talking about. So you're totally right. It might not necessarily be down to 2. It just seems like based on everyone's research in Syracuse's history, it just kind of seems like these 2 guys with the CNY kind of connections, it just seems like these 2 names make the most sense. But you're right. And one other point I just want to add is I saw an interesting tweet. So Sienna's best player is the kid's name is Gavin Doty, who just won MVP of the MAC. And his first tweet when they won the MAC tournament was thanking Adam Weitzman. You can look at his Twitter. He thanked Adam Weitzman for all the help in making Siena win this championship. So that, I take into account, Jerry coming to Syracuse might mean Mr. Weitzman is back in the picture. Their best player just thanked Adam Weitzman for helping win the tournament. I think that is, I know, Paul, you keep talking about NIL. Well, that's a big answer right there.
Yeah, it would be nice for him to be allowed back. I'm not going to say that. I just don't know how big of a dent it's going to make. Any money is good money, right?
Yeah, you need money to buy players and get players to come there, and then players ultimately win games. And Jerry has a really good roster, and some of that's NIL, and some of that's coaching too. He brings up Gavin Doty, and I see in the chat, well, he's got the best player in the league. Well, he wasn't the best player in the league last year, right? He got him, he recruited him, he brought him there, he helped develop him. Doty could have gone elsewhere. He convinced him to stay, and I'm sure monetarily that helped that they convinced him to stay. And he has blossomed into, yes, the best player in that league, or at least one of two, right? Who were unanimous picks for the all-conference team, and now they are heading to the NCAA tournament because they've got the best player in that league. They've got a great roster. They've got a really good coach, and it's all come together at the right time for them, and it's happened in a short period of time.
Yeah, get Weitzman back, great. Get everybody that's rich. Thank you.
Get them on board.
Get the rich people on board.
And again, the hope is a new head coach will bring in some new money.
Yeah. We need the chicken company to come here, like Tyson or.
Well, again, we bring up Micron. It might be a year or two too early for that, but there is possibility there. There is promise with that situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you hope that works out. You hope they stay for a long time, and you hope they bring a lot of money to this, to this economy and this community. But it might be a smidge too early for them to get involved
to come
at
back.
that level.
Ames money.
J.C. Penney's.
Hills Camillus. Used to buy my baseball cards there. I'm really glad we came in and did a show today, Steve.
Aren't you?
Yeah, I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah. Let's take a timeout. 315-437-7644 is the number if you'd like to get involved. We'll take a break. Back after this on ESPN Radio. The guy wants to know if we can do before 12:30, so I assume he means 12:15 tomorrow. You good with that?
Yeah.
I was going to say something. I lost my train of thought. I don't know.
Cabbage's NIL, that'd be nice. Kahunaville NIL. How about YouTube? Well, who should give NIL money? Circus of Value says no to GMAC. Baja Beach Club money? Yo Baja. Stephen Fonte, NIL money? That'd be nice. Jordan Capozzi says in the YouTube chat. You want Buck Rogers to be our coach, Circus of Values? Circus of Values just nominated Buck Rogers, Steve. They need an outside coach from the 21st century. Buck Rogers, everybody. Mark it down. Put 5 on it. Tweaky. That was the oldest old guy joke ever. Dwayne Reed money. We don't even have Dwayne Reed's here. PNC money, according to Brian Seeley in YouTube. You know what's funny is all the people that don't want Jerry wanted Patino, and Patino is in Beheim's coaching tree.
It's a good point.
So they can all shut the F up. Fish tender loves Paradise Found. Can the players give lap dances and keep the money?
Did you see there was an NBA team that was going to do
the Hawks.
Yeah, and the NBA put the kibosh on it.
Sibley's. Would you quit? What if an adult establishment wanted to sponsor Orange Nation? Would you quit?
I mean, we had that the DraftKings money for a while, right? That was nice.
Yeah, look at what that turned you into, a gambling.
Oh yeah, right. Okay.
Hey, Pastor Tim in the YouTube. What's up?
We can't see the call screen.
Orange Nation is back, Steve, in studio till September. Paulie Sevilla.
Road trips are behind you.
Yeah, thank God. I'm getting too old for this. I actually thought I would want to retire from the engineering gig first, but I think this year has got me so burned out on humanity and empathy and everything. Like, I don't know how much longer I can deal with like sports fans.
Well, that's what I said the other day. Somebody asked me, who do you want to see as head coach? And I said, I just want him to get it right because I don't know that I can live like this for another 3 years if it goes poorly again.
Yeah, and it's like we're going to get accused of protecting the next coach if it's Hodgson or Jerry because we like if the NIL stays the same. We're going to be saying the same thing about the next coach.
Most likely.
Speaking of great
hopefully they figure it out. John in Bridgeport is up next on our show.
The
John,
beacon of humanity.
what's going on?
Hi, man. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I haven't called since before the Olympics because I knew what was going to happen with Red. So, anywho, thanks for cleaning up the YouTube video yesterday with Mr. Beheim.
Yeah.
I tried listening to it, and it was impossible, but I watched it this morning, so thank you.
Anything for you. I didn't
Yeah,
see.
okay.
I was like, John needs to hear this. Let's get that fixed.
Thanks.
Steve did that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Everybody, you know what? I'm going to say this publicly. Everybody that works here at ESPN, Syracuse, and Q Sports Talk did an outstanding job yesterday. It was a great day to be part of this team. Thank you all.
I can never tell when you're being sarcastic, but that seemed genuine, I think.
No, I said it yesterday. I texted you all. Thank you. And now I'm publicly giving you your flowers.
I'm gonna give Maddie Mustian her flowers because at Channel 9 she was the one who put that together with the audio and the video and fixing it. So she spent some time yesterday to make that happen.
Well, thank you. I got 2 questions for you guys. One, do student athletes still have to have a GPA, or is it all about the money? Can Syracuse take lower educated players?
That's a weird way to word it.
It's a great question, John.
Yes, it is. You have to have. It's probably harder to transfer into Syracuse than other schools because your GPA has to be higher than other schools.
I don't know what the threshold is in terms of being academically ineligible. If you followed that Quiddy Copeland situation, academics were certainly involved with that. I don't know if he was, academically ineligible per se, but I think that the whole going to class and staying up with your schoolwork, I think that played a factor.
People don't want to hear that from us, but Syracuse takes that seriously.
Yeah. I mean, you hear Fran talk all the time about guys got to be in the first 2 rows and they got to be on time and so on and so forth. So, academics are part of it. I don't know what the threshold is in terms of whether or not you're on probation or, I think he had another question. I think John had 2 questions. John, what was the other question? I don't have a great answer to that one, but what's your other question?
So the second one is, why does the Syracuse fan base think Jim Beheim is a liar? That he has no control. Everyone seems to think that he pulls strings, that he's somehow in control of the university. I just don't understand. Where did this myth ever come from?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. The weird hatred towards him, it's bizarre to me. All of a sudden, he's the reason you guys want Syracuse to be good, and you want to get to the Beheim standard. It's not the orange standard; it's the Beheim standard. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think they're bottom 3 in the ACC and NIL. So I get why people would scoff at that, but dude won a lot of the games here. He's in the Hall of Fame.
He is. All right, let's keep those phone calls coming. We've got Joe in Syracuse up next. Joe on line 2. Joe, what's up?
I was just thinking about how many of the guys you think are coming back next year, and also I do have a little information as far as NIL. Dan Schertz from Nye-Ford was a big sponsor, and he's not with Nye-Ford anymore. So I know he helped those guys out with cars, so that might be a dent, and it might not be. I was just seeing what you think.
In terms of how many guys are coming back, I think it depends on who the next head coach is. Everybody's got to do what's best for themselves. I think that if you're asking me who I would like to see back, I think that both freshmen have a lot of promise and potential in Sadiq and Cayenne. I don't think Donnie Freeman will be back, but again, stranger things have happened. We'll see how that all plays out. A few years ago, Donnie, it would probably been a no-brainer for him to go get his professional career started. I think he kind of is what he is, and you want to go start that clock. Now you can make money in college, so I wouldn't be surprised if he stays in college. I just don't know that it'll be at Syracuse. But a lot of it comes down to who the coach is, I think, which is why you want the coach in here prior to when the transfer portal opens on April 7th. You want a decision. You want guys. You want to give guys time to meet with the new coach and make a decision about what's best for their future. I don't know about Nate Kings. I know he keeps popping up as trying to seek a waiver, and he had said, he was asked a couple times toward the end of the year if he would come back. He said, "Listen, I love it here. I don't know what my future is. If I get the waiver, I could see myself back here." I don't know. The NCAA, they seem to approve a lot, but then they also make some head scratching moves and at times, rule somebody ineligible. So
Syracuse doesn't seem to catch a lot of breaks for those clowns either. The other thing about Nate Kings is when JJ and people say, well, it's Red's fault. JJ and Donnie didn't play as well as they should. Do you get a little credit for getting that out of Nate Kings and William Kyle? And you need your 2 best players to be your best players.
Yeah.
Chucky and Cheese. I don't even know what the hell this is. Chucky.
That's what it says on our call screener. It says Chucky from North Syracuse.
Well, that's a good one.
So who is it?
Am I on?
Yeah, you're on the air.
Oh, Chucky. I just wanted to say that, we're in this situation now where we've had a coach for 3 years. We may have a coach for 3 or 4 years. Maybe we'll get another one. We're in this cycle where we're so spoiled to have a great coach for 47 years, and we never worried about this stuff. And it's just crazy. And Coach Beheim, such a great job. And we're just kind of spoiled. He put Syracuse on the map. He put Syracuse University on the map. And now we're hunting for coaches. But I got a name.
Is it Chucky?
Well, this is Chuck in North Syracuse. No, it's not Chuck.
Yeah.
What about Bobby Hurley? He's available. He's pretty intense defensive guy. He's upbeat or upscale on offense, and he's a fundamentals guy. I don't know. What do you think?
Steve just got completely turned on by that because he's a huge Dookie.
So, if you've listened to the show, you know that he was my favorite player growing up. I think you could do worse than Bobby Hurley. I don't think they're going to hire a guy who was just fired. That's my honest opinion. But I think somebody's going to get him. And you look at the way that Arizona State played for him, and I know they got blown out yesterday. They played pretty well down the stretch. It really seemed like it kind of coincided with, after he said, listen, I know I'm getting fired. They played hard for him down the stretch of that season, and it didn't work out there. I think he's going to get another opportunity to be a head coach. I don't think it'll be at Syracuse, but he's an East Coast guy, obviously.
Was it Buffalo?
And his dad obviously is a legend. As a high school coach at St. Anthony's. So it's yes, he coached at Buffalo for a while, and I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see where he lands, but I would be surprised if Syracuse hired somebody who was just fired.
All right, one more call, and then we'll let Steve go cool himself down after the thought of Bobby Hurley being the coach at Syracuse. Give him a nice cold shower.
Could we? I can't see, Paulie. I can't see.
Why does Mike in Syracuse?
Thank you. I can't read your mind. Mike, what's going on? How are you today?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How is everybody?
We're doing great. How are you?
Good. I guess I'm a little naive about this NIL money. Help me a little bit how this breaks down for the basketball team. I'm hearing a figure they had $8 million to work with for the year, give or take. Is that right?
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard 7.5. I've heard 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's say 8, and I don't know how many players do they have on the roster? Is it 10, 12? Does that $8 million break down to everybody? How does that break down? Does it just go to the?
It's up to them how they break it down. You get 13 roster spots.
I'm thinking everybody got paid.
You can break it down however you want. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So everybody's going to get a piece of that, right?
Yeah. Some will get less. Some will get more.
Yeah. Your star players are going to get a lot. Yeah.
All right. I just again, I'm being naive. I just find it hard to believe how 13 people can't be happy breaking down $8 million.
Well, I'm sure they were happy. They just weren't good. I would be happy if I was splitting $8 million with 13 people.
Well, right, but the better players, they want to go somewhere where they're splitting $20 million.
Like if this show had NIL, Steve would probably get, $25,000, and I'd probably get 7.5. And then sprinkle the rest amongst the peasants outside.
I think Mike's still talking.
What?
Yeah, you got to pause, Mike.
You think they'd pay Steve that much?
I would just volunteer my
Steve's
services.
independently wealthy. I don't know if you know.
I understand what you're saying. I can see where they would go to the $20 million school and get the more money. I was just wondering if like the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th guys got paid. But
they're probably making. They're probably making a little nest. Like I don't even know 50, 60, but it's still too much in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure guys are getting a little bit, but the best players want a lot, and you want to go to a program where you can, the best players at Syracuse are not what they're paying the best players at Duke.
Like
right?
we've seen, I think it was Utah or BYU, one of those, the football team.
It was Utah.
They all each got a car.
Yeah, that was Utah. Yeah, there was they got a truck. Yeah. That's kind of what's going on these days. So. Yeah, I mean, everybody wants the most that they can get, right? And so, splitting $8 million, it sounds great, but if you go to a program where you're splitting twice that, you're going to make more and theoretically win more. And I think that's what you're seeing, too. You're seeing the programs with the higher NIL, for the most part, are winning more right now. Let's take a time out here as we approach the top of the hour. We'll check in on the market next, and then we'll bring on our good friend Mike Waters from Syracuse.com. He joins us at 1 o'clock. Back after this on ESPN Radio.
Check out Mike Bristol's FW Web Syracuse Legend Show, celebrating our current and former SU greats, the biggest names in SU.
How is that Chucky and Cheese? Chuck E. Cheese.
But if his name's not Chucky, you can't tell us it's Chuck.
So you call him Chucky.
But if that's not his name, that's not what you call him.
His name is Chuck. You can call him Chucky. We may or may not have people we did tell them yesterday there wasn't a show.
Oh, okay.
So, also, do you want to do the giveaway?
Free local delivery, free no obligation quotes, and free smiles. Stop in today and turn your to-do list into a
like that time they wrote Grumpy John on there, and I said it's Grumpy John.
Yeah.
Because I thought that might have been his nickname or something, Grumpy John.
Well, it kind of stuck. All right, this guy's locked in for tomorrow.
Locked on? Can we get a new locked on guy next year? I'd rather have that than a good coach. Can we replace that locked on kid whose face is on my Twitter all the time? We need a regime change at Lockdown. I'd rather have Red for another year. We need regime change. Sorry, he's a good kid. He's a good kid. Everybody's good. I just hate that his face is always there. Okay. Bruce Pearl. That was my impersonation of Lockdown. I got too many people in this chat locked on my.
What'd you say?
I said there's a lot of people in this chat locked on my junk, if you know what I mean, Steve. Locked on this D.
You have problems.
Nothing. He's a great kid. Hey, our open
This is
our
Orange
bump.
Nation.
Is that legal? Can your open be your bump?
Why not? It just happened. We got to do something about the call screener because it keeps disappearing. But I believe it's Vito and Clay up next. Yes, Vito, how are you today?
Yeah, I had to turn Twitch off. Sorry about that.
No problem. I have to turn it off every day.
I want to bring up a point that I don't think I've heard yet. So we have to compete with NIL, not just at a roster level with each school, but the taxes. So I'm going to give you 4 states that we compete with in terms of ACC teams being there. Most importantly, North Carolina, with Wake Forest, Duke, North Carolina. They tax at a flat rate of 4.5%. New York, we tax NIL up to 10.9%. So let's just assume 10%. We have to compete with that from that state. Kentucky taxes NIL at a flat 4% rate. One more example is Florida, 0%. They don't tax NIL at all. And as you guys probably know, Mississippi is lobbying to get rid of NIL taxes. That's something that, unfortunately, being in a dark blue state, we are at a disadvantage. We should be getting on the phone with our congressmen, our politicians, to get rid of that NIL and do our part to try to help Syracuse. That's a big problem that we have to overcome.
You know, I hate taxes. I'm not going to lie. But the last thing I'm doing is saying NIL shouldn't be taxed when you got kids that are paying their way through college themselves and they're working part-time jobs and full-time jobs and they're getting taxed. No way am I saying if you're going to get rid of taxes, get rid of it for everybody. I'm not doing it for some kid making $1 million to play basketball.
Well, the federal's 12 to 15% for everybody. But, you know, if you're someone like Calvin Russell, if they're offering me $1 million, I'm going to say, you know, you're going to give me $1 million, 1.1 million to offset the taxes in New York for me to come there. That's probably some of the bargaining tactics that are going on, but I'm just hoping we can do something about it.
It happens in baseball. Vito, Padres tried to sign Merrill Kelly, and he said no. Arizona's taxes are less. Yeah. So this is a reality. I find it hard to not tax some kid making $1 million.
Right, like Vito, you bring up the situation in Mississippi, and that's what they're suggesting, right? Is that they make an exception for NIL, and I think that's Paulie. That's what you're
already there.
Yeah,
well,
right, but
already there.
Well, yeah, but Florida, their tax structure is different. Like Mississippi's saying, all right, make an exception just for NIL, which I think that's a tough sell.
Well, they don't. I don't know if you would call it an exception in Florida per se, but it doesn't exist. So,
well, right, it doesn't exist, right? But I'm saying it does exist right now in Mississippi, and they're not suggesting you take away state tax for everybody. They're saying just for NIL, which
you know why Mississippi's doing it because they're SEC schools.
Sure, of course,
compete with Florida's SEC schools.
Of course,
so.
Yeah. No, I get why they're doing it. I get, yeah. I mean, what you're saying is accurate.
If I was going to push something though, I would be saying all college kids who have jobs and are going to school and. You don't have to pay taxes. I'm not doing it for athletes only.
Right. I think that's the tough sell. Is that it's just we're going to make an exception for NIL so people come here and our athletics can be really good. Yeah, I mean it is, as you said, Paulie. It's a factor. And
if it happened, it happened. Like if they got the votes, okay, it would be great. I hate it.
It would be nice when we had Coach Beheim on yesterday. We talked about like what's going to change. It would be nice if there was an even level playing field for everyone, and that everybody was playing by the same rules. And so if if one state's not taxing NIL, that if that's something across the board. But obviously, states are allowed to come up with their own tax structure, and it is what it is. The rules are the rules right now, and so we can lament the fact that Syracuse is behind the 8 ball, or colleges in New York State are behind the 8 ball, or whatever you want to say. But the rules are the rules, and they got to figure it out because what we've seen the last couple of years is just not good enough for anybody. And that's why there's a coaching change, and you hope that they can get it right. So with that, no Lee Baldwin today. We had told them yesterday there was no show. So that's why we will not have an update on the market, but we'll take a timeout, and we'll kick off hour number 2 next with Mike Waters from Syracuse.com. Back after this on ESPN Radio.
Yeah. Wow. Why is Pat yelling about Earl Grant? Steve doesn't even pay attention in this show. Did you guys just like my kind-hearted take about struggling students? You animals. Get rid of my taxes, too, while you're at it. People who talk about NIL should not be taxed. That sounds like a good one. I don't care what you have to say, Q Sports Nor. You're welcome. Mythic Hook. You should go talk to him. Go say hi to Mythic Hook. Steve, what do you think about people who talk about NIL on the radio should not be taxed? Thank you. Vote for me. I want you to get right up there to Mythic Hook and tell him everything you got. Just get your mouth right up there to Mythic Hook.
I was checking my slowly deflating tire. That's what I was checking. See if I could get back to work today.
That sounds like a country song. My slowly deflating tire. Q Sports Nor, if you know, you know.
I was going to say, you must not
be a big fan of the show.
You must not be a big fan of the show if you don't know.
One of the funniest mistakes I've ever made in my life, Mythic Hook. I literally laughed, had tears coming down my eyes for a whole segment. Which led to Jordan laughing at somebody not even trying to make up a fake name. Go talk to Blowmore, yes. Yes, Jordan.
Yes, I have an air pump in my car. I actually had to pump it up to get here today, but I just wanted to see how quickly it was going back down.
Perfect. Well, I have an air pump. Do you have one of those?
They asked.
I know. Do you have one of those battery chargers in your car too that just jumps your car immediately?
No. No.
You're like goddamn Beaver Cleaver sometimes. Guess who has a pump in their car? If you had to put your spare on right now, could you do it?
Couldn't do it quickly, I tell you that.
Would you know where to put the jack? Because I'll show you where.
On QSportsTalk.com.
Oh, no.
This is Orange Nation.
It is, and this bump is banging, Steve.
I'm your idol, the highest title.
You know how I feel about special ed.
Special ed. He played a Syracuse block party once. Do you remember those? Do they still do those?
I think so. Yeah, at the end of the school year, yeah.
I played Redhead Kingpin on my 80s show a couple of weeks ago. Do the right thing.
Yeah.
And I got a request. Could you play Special Ed as your hip hop song of the night? I think it's a little too deep. Redhead Kingpin was at least a top 40 song.
Yeah. I got it made. It's not good enough for you?
You know,
No.
I don't think Mike Waters is a big fan of
Probably
rapper
not.
Special Ed.
Probably not. We're driving into our second hour. It's brought to you by Burdick BMW of Cicero. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. How are y'all doing?
We're doing all right. There's been some news this week, which is why you're on with us. And then shameless plug, he'll be on with us tonight on the TV side of things from 7 to 7:30 on Channel 9. I guess let's start with the newest headline, and that is the athletic director. Pete Thamel last night reporting Bryan Blair has been kind of tabbed as the guy and, awaiting board approval from the Board of Trustees before they make it official. How surprised were you to hear of Bryan Blair?
I really first heard his name on Tuesday down at the ACC tournament, and was kind of like, "Oh, hadn't heard that name before. That's interesting." But then when you start looking at him and you look at his bio, you're like, "This guy checks a lot of boxes here."
Yeah,
and probably more so than any other candidate that we heard from. Running his own program now as an athletic director at Toledo, which means his school has a football program as well. He's not coming from, like a Big East school or someplace like that doesn't have Division I football. Young, but been in that role for 4 or 5 years, multiple stops, and a reputation as a revenue generator. Yeah, a guy who's really adept at funding his programs, and they've had successful football and basketball programs at Toledo in his years there.
Seems like, as you said, and we talked about that earlier in the show, it does seem like he checks a lot of boxes. In this day and age, with NIL, you got to be a fundraiser, and it seems like that is one of his strengths. Young guy, right, 40 years old. He's been the AD at Toledo since 2022. Does anything else stand out to you about that? The fact that, we keep hearing, I'm sure you hear the debate about whether or not they're going to go in the family or outside the family for the basketball coach. Do you think the fact that they went with somebody who does not have Syracuse ties, not a Nick Carparelli who's got, a Cuse guy, not Heather Like who has been here for a year, not any of the other candidates that had kind of been thrown out there with ties to Syracuse. Do you think that indicates anything to you about who the next head coach might be from a basketball perspective?
I think it means that we're looking at someone who's going to come in and be open to all candidates and won't exclude anybody, but, also maybe won't be preoccupied or be predisposed to hiring somebody with family ties. But, obviously, if we're talking about some of the names, we're talking about Jerry McNamara, we're talking about Brian Hodgson at South Florida, and there are others. But so I think he comes in probably as a blank slate and willing to consider anybody. But, we also don't know who Bryan Blair might be looking at. Right. ADs at every level are always looking for their future coaches. So he probably knows some people out there, coaches that might not be on our radar here, but have been on his. So, who knows? But, yeah, I think it kind of throws the basketball coaching search. I don't want to say it throws it wide open, but I think we need to kind of maybe take a step back and look at it from a Bryan Blair's point of view. But I still think you have two really good and highly thought of candidates at the top of almost everybody's list in Jerry McNamara and Brian Hodgson.
Mike, let me ask you this. I asked Steve this last week. If you had a bet on this, would you take one of those two or the field right now?
I'd take one of those two. Now, I might hedge on that a little bit with the news of in the last 48 hours that it's someone like a Bryan Blair. That the odds might have tilted a little bit more towards the field, but I think I would still take the top two. But whatever it is, I'm not a real gambler better type guy, so I don't know all the lingo. But whatever your odds were a week ago with taking the field, they probably aren't they're probably not as good now.
Have you heard any names other, is there anybody that maybe you think could creep into the talk here?
At one point I heard Luke Murray's name, the assistant coach at Connecticut, but I haven't heard that name in a very long time, so I'm not as certain about that one. People throw out Josh Schertz's name at St. Louis. I don't know if he's necessarily a great coach, but coming from where he is in the Midwest and making what I think he makes at St. Louis, I don't know that he's dropping everything there to come rushing for this job when the pay is basically in the same ballpark, if what I'm being told is correct. So I'm not as big on him. Mike Hopkins has been mentioned, and I think there would be some interest on his part. But Bryan Blair, not knowing him at all, that would be interesting. Mike starts from square one with a new AD there, as opposed to if it was John Wildhack still in place and making the hire. And it's not like Mike wouldn't have to introduce himself, Other names, I don't know. I'm struggling to really come up with some. I think we start hearing a few more as we go along. I know my colleague Donna Dakota had a pretty comprehensive list the other day, but I'm waiting for the tea leaves to change after Bryan Blair gets introduced, and we give it a few days or whatever, and we get past this coming weekend. And at that point, I'm sure we'll either start hearing some new names or we'll start zeroing in on two or three, and I think two of those will be Hodgson and McNamara.
Yeah, and you bring up Luke Murray, and it's an interesting case, right? Because he is a hot name right now, but he's also an assistant, and we saw that what just happened with Syracuse hiring an assistant and first-time head coach, and it obviously did not go well. Do you think that would deter the powers that be from going after somebody like Luke Murray, the fact that he is quote unquote just not that an assistant can't do it, but given that it just went south with an assistant and a first time head coach in this day and age of NIL, do you think that would deter the university from hiring him?
I don't know if it would completely deter them, because remember, Bryan Blair did not experience that himself. So if he's coming in, he might be more open to all candidates. But I still, I would wager right now that there's no way in the world that they hire somebody who doesn't have head coaching experience. One name to watch, and this is based on absolutely nothing. I have no inside intel at all. But if you want a guy who's been a head coach and been a head coach for more than just a minute or two, Shaheen Holloway is sitting out there at Seton Hall. And he's done a remarkable job there in a program that is horrifically underfunded. And, he's got an uphill climb every year in the Big East. And I've heard that he is a name to watch for power conference jobs, big jobs. And you look around and it's like, well, what jobs are those right now that are open? There really aren't any. I wrote a story this morning talking about the coaching carousel right now is pretty wide open, giving Syracuse, maybe a better chance at getting exactly who it wants when they identify them. Because right now, none of the blue bloods are open. There's really not a lot of power powerhouse schools that are open, like, ones that are like right below the Blue Bloods. I mean, what's the most attractive job that's open right now if it's not Syracuse? I mean, Arizona State? You're not going to be in the same pool as Arizona State and who you're looking for. I mean, so, listen, if Shaheen Holloway wants to get out of Seton Hall, who's to say he's not considered up here?
I brought this name up a couple times, and let me see if this is laughable to a guy who actually knows basketball. Why does nobody talk about Speedy Claxton as a Power 4 coach, do you think?
It's great. Probably because he hadn't gotten to the NCAA tournament, which is where coaches at that level really get noticed and get some juice and, get talked about on national TV for the first time ever. But it's a great point. I mean, Speedy's done an incredible job at Hofstra. Obviously he beat Pittsburgh and Syracuse this year.
He's got a good point guard he can bring with him too.
He has as many league wins this year as Georgia Tech did. You can start there, right? But no, you watch for Speedy. Another name to watch from another New York school in that area who's had another great year is Long Island University's Rod Strickland.
Yeah, a lot of names out there right now. Getting back to the Jerry McNamara conversation for a second, and I know you touched on this a little bit earlier, but how much more, I don't know how to articulate this, how much more real did that become by him winning the MAC conference title?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
It's a sense I get
because
to.
Up until then, he was a second-year head coach who had done a really good job at a Metro Atlantic school, and you were obviously from some segments of the Syracuse fandom or whatever, like they don't want to have another Beheim tree guy. They don't want another in-family hire. But then all of a sudden, wait a second. He won the league. He's going to the NCAA tournament, and you start seeing the videos of the locker room celebrations and the post-game interviews, and you remember, oh boy, this guy, he's a firebrand, right? He is a bulldog, a personality that's going to win you a press conference. No, I think winning the conference tournament put Jerry from kind of like, okay, he's a horse in the field, but he's kind of off the pace, to all of a sudden he's right up there with the leading horses.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I feel the same way. And I guess along those lines, you said you heard Hop's name, especially early on. Do you think that he has, if you're using the horse racing analogy, has he passed Mike Hopkins on the outside, and is Mike Hopkins fading and Jerry finishing strong with in the final stretch?
I'm imagining one of those goofy NBA on TNT graphics where Charles and Shaq.
Yeah.
And this is going to be like Mike Hopkins, Jerry McNamara, and Brian Hodgson as jockeys on horses or something.
Yeah.
I would say probably, as of right now, and I'm trying to put myself not in my shoes, but in the shoes of Bryan Blair. And just, are you really, I think you're more looking for a guy who's doing it right now versus a guy who's been on an NBA bench for a couple of years and it didn't end well at Washington. And, it might not be as, not knowing Mike Hopkins, maybe, because I think as us up here, we know Mike Hopkins. We know that personality. We know he'll win a press conference. We know he'll win over donors. We know he can work a room. I think raising money is going to be no problem for a Mike Hopkins. So I can see him there, but I don't know if a new athletic director with no ties to SU, if Mike's at the same level. But I don't know. We'll have to see. I can't wait to talk to Bryan Blair.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, hopefully we get to do that sooner rather than later. All right, Mike, we appreciate. Yeah,
I did have one last one for you, Mike. What did you make of the fallout of Coach Beheim saying that Donnie and JJ were, the reason why Red lost his job this year, and he did end it. A lot of people left out the coach is ultimately responsible for at the end part. A lot of people like to leave that out, but he did say that his two best players did not live up to their end of the bargain.
Where's the lie? College sports are now like professional sports. And for the bulk of their budget that they ostensibly spent on JJ and Donnie, you didn't get the kind of production you would have hoped for. And not to be critical of JJ and Donnie, but, we always saw, how things didn't go great, especially for JJ at the end. He was struggling. It was really painful to watch. The kid was really going through it. That didn't help. Donnie, boy, when Donnie came back from injury, he was crushing it. And then just something happened. And while he would still put up numbers at times, at other times, it just wasn't there. He was drifting on the perimeter on offense way too much. I know in Donnie, like the last 3 games of the of the season, including the SMU game the other day, he's 1 out of every 3 of his shots was a 3-pointer. And in those 3 games, he was 1 of 10 from 3-point range. That's not what you want your 6'9" power forward to do. I mean, I want him to shoot some threes and be a stretch 4 if he's making threes, but he had a tendency to be out there on the perimeter too much. And so, listen, that wasn't the sole reason this team had a losing record this year. There were a lot of reasons. And people can pick out which ones that they think is the most important, but there's no way around the fact that having your 2 best and probably highest paid guys having less than awesome years. You got to have good years out of your top guys. I mean, like if North Carolina's Henry Wiesbaugh and Caleb Wilson had not had great years, where would Carolina wouldn't be good. And probably it's more so as you go further down the league standings, because you get to the point when you have your team's NIL and certain teams you can't afford to miss. Like if Duke this year had spent a lot of money on Dame Sarr, and Dame didn't work out to be good, Duke's fine because they got Cameron Boozer, Patrick Ngongba, Malik Brown, Caleb Foster, and Isaiah Evans. Stephen Fonte can coach that team to a top finish in the league. Right? He doesn't need.
I believe that I could.
Can do fine with that. You could. Paulie could. We all could.
I don't know about Paulie.
Now, but if you're further down the league standings and one of the guys you spent a lot of money on doesn't, you whiff on him or whatever, you can't afford to miss. And again, we go back to, listen, college sports are like pro sports now. It's the same as when the Baltimore Orioles sign a free agent. That free agent has to hit. And if that free agent doesn't hit, the Baltimore Orioles are not going to have a good season. The New York Yankees miss on a free agent, and they'll be fine. The Los Angeles Dodgers will miss on one free agent signing. One guy won't work out. The Dodgers are still going to make the playoffs.
Mike, I sorry to keep you this long. I just want to hit on one more thing here because it came up. Is JJ Starling? He's kind of just tailed off at the end of the year. Like I've never seen anything like it at Syracuse before, and he really wasn't talking to the media, so we don't know if it was injuries. What did you make of just the end here for JJ Starling?
I hated it. It was awful to watch. It was awful to be close to the 2 and around like you guys are. The kid was struggling. He was trying. And I don't know if it got into it. I'm pretty sure it was in his head. When you see the kid play well before and all of a sudden he just can't get out of his own way. He couldn't get anything done. And, he's trying to figure a way out. And it's just not there. And it was listen, he was never a great 3-point shooter. Teams were making him shoot threes. They were making it harder for him to get his customary drives to the basket. But we weren't even seeing him play with that kind of aggression anymore, that JJ aggression. It was brutal to watch. I know he stopped talking to the media. I wanted to go over to him many times and go, I feel for you too, kid, because I can see you're trying. But I don't know if he wanted to hear it from me. So, you got to let that go. But it was awful. I mean, it was really ugly. And to let Syracuse fans know, from those of us who are up close and close to the program and following and talking to people, it wasn't for lack of effort. It wasn't for lack of trying. It wasn't for lack of preparation. I think, the kid was just mired in one of the most brutal slumps I've ever seen.
Yeah. This is so unfortunate. All right, Mike, this was a nice warm-up for later. We'll see you on the TV side of things, 7 to 7:30 tonight on Channel 9.
All right, guys. Always good talking to you. We'll see you.
All right. Our good friend Mike Waters from Syracuse.com joining us on the show. We'll take a time out here. We've got Matt Park. We may just take Matt Park next.
Whoa, crazy.
Yeah, we might just go back-to-back
I love
here.
when we talk show clock.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We'll
Time management.
We'll make up the breaks later. We'll bring on Matt Park next on ESPN Radio.
Catch the Syracuse basketball pregame prior to every game. Built by IKEA.
I'm a journalist.
We are the pulse of the orange. ESPN Radio 97.7 and 100.1.
I don't have time to have a flat tire today, Paulie.
Nobody's got time for a flat. Nobody got time for that.
Is he, he's VMix, I assume?
What do I look like, Steve?
Kill the mics for 1 second.
Uh-oh.
No, it's just there's...
Sick of doing it.
Yeah, Kevin, I appreciate that. I think I got him at Dunn, which they're supposed to replace. There's insurance on the tires. But
I wish I could afford tire insurance. Jesus.
No, that's when you buy them there.
Bougie.
No, it's not bougie. That's
tire
what Dunn.
Insurance.
No, that's what they
Who the
do.
hell gets their tires insured?
If you buy your tires from there, there's like I don't know exactly what the fine print says, but there's an insurance policy when you buy tires there.
A warranty?
Yeah, it's like tire insurance. It's like roadside insurance on your tires. That comes with it when you.
That doesn't seem like a.
No, warranty suggests that you get your money back. It's like they kind of. I think they prorate it based on how long you've had it, how many miles you're on the tire.
Yeah, not like if you ran over a freaking nail, though.
No, they do. They do.
Yeah, that sounds like
Kaz
rip-off.
Lumber has it all. Family owned for 4 generations. Contractors and homeowners get the best quality lumber, building supplies, pricing, and outstanding customer service. Plus, Kaz Lumber features Benjamin Moore paints, free local delivery.
Speaking of Donnie, what got into him at the end of the year trying to think he could pass a ball from one side of the court to the other across the lane? Did you notice he did that a lot at the end of the season?
Yeah.
Big Red Caboose. Online at cazlumber.com.
Spring will be here before you know it. Now's the time to jump into a new...
Steve, I got a bridge to sell you. Steve bought tire insurance.
I didn't buy it. It comes with the tires. When you buy them, it does. It
Those
does.
have to be really expensive.
3-year coverage on tires unless the tread gets below 2. And again, they prorate it based on how long you've had the tires. Damage includes potholes, glass, nails, road debris.
Those must be some expensive tires.
Okay.
My God, those are bougie ass tires. I got mine at Walmart for $60 each.
You don't have to pay extra for it. If you buy your tires there, they give you the insurance.
If we have an image of a non-smoker, we attract non-smoker behavior.
People in the chat are saying that's an extra $600.
It is not. It was not an extra cost.
Does it include bullet holes? Good question.
No, it does not include bullet
You
holes.
are rolling through the hood of that.
So one of the things we focus on with our programs is this: is we work on
Yes, here. It's coming on my headphones. Enjoy, everyone.
snapshot of
I'm just going to go like this.
if you have a healthy image, you attract healthy habits.
Tire insurance. Never heard of such a I found out the hard way I didn't have glass coverage on my insurance, which I thought all insurance had.
You really didn't?
No. Think I would lie about that? I don't drive an 87 Buick. It's a 22. Oh, I would love like an 82 or an 87 Buick. We had a Buick when I was around 86. Buick, what the hell was it called? Something French sounding.
Do we have Matt? Do we know that we have Matt?
Yes, we have him.
ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com.
Ooh, Steve, your song.
This is Orange Nation.
Why is this my song?
Because you're a robot.
Because I'm a robot, right?
The freakazoids and robots. IDS.
All right, well, you asked multiple questions to Mike Waters, so we're just going seamlessly now here into Matt Park.
You get mad at me when I don't ask questions.
No, I wasn't mad at you. I'm just saying we kept Mike for a really long time.
There's a lot going on in the world of sports.
We hit Matt Park right at 1:30. He joins us now. A lot to get to this week, Matt. How are things? You're back in town, I assume?
Oh, yeah. Quick trip to Charlotte and right back in the middle of the night.
Yeah. So where should we begin? I guess let's start with where we started with Mike, and that is with the most recent headline, and that is news that Syracuse University is zeroing in on Bryan Blair, Toledo's athletic director, to be the university's new AD. What have you read up to this point on Bryan Blair? What do you know about him? What can you tell us about him?
Really nothing different than anybody else. I hadn't heard of him or his candidacy until seeing the same announcement that everybody else did start to roll in last night, and have been occupied with just trying to duck around on some people that might know him a little bit and get up to speed on who he is and what he's done. And we've read his bio and all that, and he seems to bring a lot to the table. Somebody who has run his own operation after getting trained at a couple of different spots like South Carolina and Washington State. And I would say this about the MAC. In the MAC, the resources are pretty even across the board. Those are all very similar schools. And if you're a good coach or a good athletic director in the MAC, you've gotten to your level of success because of your acumen and it's the meritocracy of it. Because I don't, maybe people who know it better would say different. I don't think there's a huge disparity among the contenders. Maybe there's some you'd eliminate at the bottom, but the MAC is, it's kind of like one of these NASCAR races where all the cars are made the same. Everybody's working with the same equipment, and then it's the best driver that the crews that rise to the top. So I think if you've done well in the MAC, and he clearly has, football and basketball have both been good, and he's a fundraiser, and from what I hear, talking to a couple people that have worked with him, good guy to be around and gets along with everyone. So far so good, I think.
Does it change your opinion at all in terms of who you think the next head coach will be of the men's basketball program? The fact they went with somebody who, is completely outside the family, really no ties to Syracuse University other than maybe, the fact that Vince Karras is the defensive coordinator here, but no ties to the university. Does that change your opinion on what you think happens next?
A little bit, except that what's going to happen is what I would have recommended and hoped would be the case right from the jump, that for either of these positions, that's why you have committees and people going through the work and search firms and that type of stuff. Let's cast a wide net. Let's, maybe there's 3 or 4 or 5 different categories of people. Let's take the best representatives of those categories and let's really look into them, talk to them, and see which direction we want to go. Don't go into it with preconceived, it has to be this, it absolutely can't be that, whatever. And so that's what a new person coming in will do. Now, I think what it probably does is it opens it up to a new category, which is people that were in his, every AD's got that desk drawer with the list of a few people who they would call if they had an opening. So the people that are on his list are now open, or people he knows from MAC connections or whatever. Now, you can hire a higher level of coach at Syracuse than you can at Toledo right now, but maybe there's people that through that background and through his experiences and the places he's been that get on the radar that haven't otherwise been. But I think he obviously will consider the same. The people that have been talked about here for the last couple of weeks will be in the mix with him, and maybe there's just another couple that are added in.
Obviously, Jerry McNamara elevated his profile by winning the MAC conference title. How much did he elevate his profile, in your opinion, Matt, from, I guess his candidacy prior to beating Merrimack the other night to where it is, 24 to 48 hours later here?
A little bit, certainly. I think for the people that were already inclined to like Jerry McNamara, then it doesn't matter a whole lot, although it's really fun to see him go through that experience and the championship, and Katie's there and the kids and his parents and all that stuff was really cool if you're a Jerry McNamara fan. And now he'll get some more buzz on the national stage because he's going to be in this big tournament that we all know and love and gets a lot of exposure. I think if you were inclined to go with Jerry and, again, roll back this conversation 2, 3, 4 weeks, people were saying, well, if he wins the championship, you got to go with him. Well, I don't know. What if Merrimack completed that comeback the other night? Or what if somebody threw one in from half court in the semifinal game or something to beat him? He wasn't lesser a coach for not actually winning that. But when he does, it's an even easier sell. So I think, Jerry, and I heard the whole segment with Mike, Jerry vaults right up there, to the top of the list, maybe even with some others. And, once you kind of punch that ticket, I think it has to win over some other people, or it answers maybe some of the questions or pushes back. I don't think you can really have much of a dispute with Jerry McNamara's candidacy.
I asked Mike this, I'll ask you, is there any name that you have heard that's outside of the ones we're hearing, or is there someone maybe you would, if you were the AD, would hire or interview?
No, again, if it was up to me personally, and obviously it's not, and thank goodness it's not for all of us, I would sit down with the yellow legal pad as soon as you knew you were going to move on from Adrian Autry, which was weeks ago, and you sit down and you have stretch category. Well, the head of that category for me is Jay Wright. All right, we're going to move on. Okay, and that category, you're calling them in 30 seconds. You can find out whether it's worth pursuing it or not, and probably in that case it's not, and you move on. Then you've got a category of in the family. Well, that's Jerry McNamara number 1, Mike Hopkins 1A, and that's probably it from that category. Then you have the hot shot at large, and that's Brian Hodgson, that's Josh Schertz, that's some of these others. I certainly couldn't argue with the names that are thrown out there, like Shaheen Holloway. I think you threw out Tommy Amaker, Paulie. All those people are in that category. And when these searches happen, there's search firms, there's agents. You don't have to wait completely for the games to be done. The Syracuse representatives are not twiddling their thumbs waiting for the first weekend of the tournament to be done. Now, that has to say about when you actually announce somebody and have press conferences and that type of stuff. So I don't have anybody specifically that, I'm dying, it has to be this guy. I think specifically with Jerry, I would say to outbid him, that person on the other side of the interview table is going to really have to knock your socks off. I think, and again, this is no guarantee that it would work out with Jerry or anybody else. None of this is guaranteed up or down. But I think he's a very strong play. And if it's somebody else, it's somebody else. And you wish him the best. And everybody's got to get behind him, because we all know the factors here. Without the total unified support, you're asking for trouble.
I don't know if you had a chance to hear the show yesterday. We had Jim Beheim on from down in Charlotte. He joined Paulie from the arena. And when he was talking about reasons why things went wrong over the course of the last 3 years and why this year went wrong in particular, I'm sure you saw the quote by now that, he said that, his two best players let him down. What do you make of that? And I guess when Coach is catching a lot of pushback for saying that. I guess what's your reaction to hearing that comment?
Well, what's the pushback?
That he's blaming.
What grounds are you pushing back? Do you disagree or didn't want him to say it? I think there's both of that. Yes, I watched the show. I watched that one a second time, or at least part of it. Yes, I see all the social media stuff. Because I think there's all kind of when you say there's pushback, I see all kinds of categories. Some is, hey, Beheim, just go sit in your house in Skinny Atlas and keep to yourself. That's some feedback. Then there's, hey, he exaggerated, or hey, he's just sticking up for Red, or hey, you could disagree. I don't. I don't disagree that the top two players, and probably more than that, top three players, I would say, didn't deliver on the way that was anticipated at the start of the year. Let's roll back to, I can't remember if it was on the air or not, but let's go back to the summer. My feeling about this whole season coming in was, look, Red with Alex Klein has put the roster together the way he wants. If he goes down, he's going to go down doing it his way. And so with that being said, everyone's kind of at peace here. It stinks. You don't want to make coaching changes. You want to have successful seasons. But Red, it went the way Red drew it up, given the parameters he had. Could he have had more support? Absolutely. All these other things. But the top 2-3 players that they put together, the nucleus of this team, the way they did it on paper made sense at the time. There may have been miscalculations about chemistry and about some other things. It just didn't work out, and it's time to move on. I don't think anybody disputes that. So I don't know what's so salacious about Jim Beheim saying that the top two players on the team didn't deliver the way that was expected. I think it's fact.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and I think Paulie is too. Paulie, what do you got?
Yeah, I don't. I was just saying, I think people bristle when you bring players' names into it. I'm sorry, but again, that's what we're doing here in Sports Talk Radio. They're pros. I don't take any pleasure in doing it. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. But the next guy in is Nathan George, who again was brought in. I don't know what any of these people's payrolls were, but we can all agree that these are the top three players on the team, the three cornerstones. 1, 2, 3. Doesn't make any sense. You'd have to have 4 cornerstones, right? But clearly the nucleus, they committed right away to the nucleus of Starley and Freeman. Then the next additional piece is a guy who was all conference and led the ACC in assists. And at the end of the year, he started putting up, decent numbers and contributing. He had his moments the other way. For this to have worked for Syracuse, all three of those players needed to be in the all-conference caliber type player, and they just really weren't.
But also the other thing that people leave out of this is the last sentence you said.
This always knew this was going to be a bubble-licious kind of team. We thought it was bubble in, and as it turned out, they didn't even reach the bubble, and that's why there's changes.
Yeah, the other thing that people leave out of that statement was he said ultimately it's the head coach's fault. So, it is Red's fault that he could not get the best out of these players, right?
I mean, the more noteworthy thing that Beheim said yesterday is, and I went back to watch it to see, did he misspeak or what? I think it was taken that he was putting Syracuse in the same boat as Georgia Tech and Boston College in terms of resources. And that's, Coach is a very convincing speaker. He tends to lean one way or the other to make his point and exaggerate and speak in hyperbole. Nobody thinks, at least strictly in terms of payroll, that Syracuse and Boston College and Georgia Tech are on par. They're not. Syracuse is not resourced like Duke and North Carolina, but they're not at the other end either. So they're, as we always talk about, they're 7, 8, 9. That's what it was this year, and I think it's got to be no worse than that going forward, and probably bumped up a little bit because you really want this next coach to succeed. Go back to what was the last thing, Paul? I'm sorry.
I don't even remember. I'm going senile.
You said that putting responsibility on Adrian Autry. Of course you do. At the end of the day, the head coach is responsible. He's got to get the most out of what he can. I would just say not every roster is made to be a cinch, right? Go back to what Mike just said. Again, Duke is obviously the cream of the crop in the conference. Their roster is so good that, with all due respect to John Shire, who's an excellent coach, a lot of coaches could get Duke into the tournament and get them a double bye and that kind of thing. Maybe not be number one, but could get them through and do it. Adrian Autry will be the first to say he didn't get enough out of what he had with his roster, but it was not a slam dunk that they were going to sail through the season to begin with. And again, that's why he's out of a job and his staff's out of a job, and they're moving on.
The portal opens April 7th. Last one from me, Matt. In terms of, I know we're all kind of speculating here and guessing, but if you had a guess on a timeline, it sounds like the AD is just about in place. We'll probably have a formal introduction, I would assume, next week. How quickly do you think they identify the next head coach, and when do you think? Some of it probably depends on when guys are eliminated from the NCAA tournament, but what kind of timeline are we looking at here with the portal looming on April 7th?
Sure, and again, what meets the public eye is not exactly the timeline that's happening behind the scenes. So there could be arrival of a head coach right along here. I don't think that'll be the case because you got to get the AD on his feet and settled in. But I'm sure they've already narrowed it down to a handful, a small group that they can work on here. Specifically with Jerry McNamara, yes, I'm sure he's got a go-between and somebody you can talk to if you want to gauge his interest and his understanding on it. I think we know his interest. But he's going to have other people coming after him, and you work through all that. I do think there's some sensitivity, and again, from a Syracuse perspective with Jerry, I don't think Syracuse wants to be responsible for distracting him as he goes into his first NCAA tournament. Now, obviously, there'll be a lesser seed, and they'll be not favored in their first game, and maybe, for him to have a long tournament run would be a real surprise. So you can get right on that, whether it's McNamara, Hodgson, whoever your flavor of the month is, you can get the wheels turning. And I would expect, certainly in the next couple of weeks, but you look at the first part of the second week of the tournament, right after the opening couple of rounds, or the first part of the week after that is when you'll get your news.
Yeah, certainly sounds like it. That makes a lot of sense. All right, Matt, as always, thanks for the time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks, guys. Sounds good. See ya.
All right, Voice of the Orange, Matt Park, joining us here on the program. With that, we'll take a timeout. Phone lines open the rest of the way, last 15 minutes or so. Back after this on ESPN Radio.
Time with Tim Leonard. Well, here's what you missed.
The thing that jumps out the most to me from the resume of
I did something shady yesterday, everybody. You guys ready to hear what I did? So, at the arena in Charlotte, they have free refills on your fountain drinks, and I bought the cup on Tuesday, and I brought it back to the arena with me on Wednesday. I'm a criminal. Should I be arrested for stealing a fountain drink the next day? Put that on a poll. I am a criminal. I can't sleep. I have a guilty conscience. I feel like I have to go back and... I didn't even smuggle it in. It was the only, I had all of the equipment and stuff packed up in the room we broadcast from. So I just walked out with my... Cuse B-ball, I travel with the basketball team, so that's how my hotels get booked. I never do anything like that, but I walked home from the arena with the cup, and it was sitting next to my bed when I woke up, and I go, I'm bringing that back. I'm not paying $12 for another. I wasn't paying $12 for another cup. I think they had free media drinks, but they had weird sodas like Fega. Like Matt Park was telling me, like they had candy and stuff for the media, but it was all like off-brand, like Twix white chocolate and like whatchamacallit peanut butter. You know.
Why are they finding the fancy stuff?
No, it's not fancy. It's like the stuff that nobody buys, so it's just like leftover.
Like the special edition.
Did it taste? Yeah, I felt like I was breaking the law when I was drinking it. It was. Uh-oh. You ever snuck something into a movie theater, Steve?
You better say yes to that.
Oh, you haven't lived unless you've done that. Yeah, I do it all the time. You haven't lived unless you've done that. I do it all the time.
Sneak stuff in.
Oh, yeah. It's great. It's so fun.
You sneak hot dogs in?
All the time.
Pre-made?
Yeah.
Hot dogs in your... You know what this song's about, Steve?
I do.
We were just discussing, like, I can't believe I'm admitting I did this. Because it's just cheap. You got free. First of all, this is props to the Charlotte Arena, whatever the hell, the Spectrum Arena. Free refills on your drink. You get that big souvenir
like
cup.
The fan cup?
Yeah, the souvenir cup. Got the ACC tournament cup. Steve, you ready to hear this? So I got my drink yesterday, $12. I brought the cup back with me yesterday to the show, and I stole free refills the next day.
That's awful. Doesn't surprise me.
Should I go turn myself in?
No, you don't have to turn yourself in.
You work with a terrible human.
Can we get to the news?
That is news. You're working with a criminal.
Yeah. The news, I know everybody's been waiting on it, but the news is official. Sources tell me that we're going to hear an official announcement here very shortly, but it is a done deal. That Board of Trustees has approved the hiring of Bryan Blair, and he will be the next athletic director at Syracuse University. So off we go. I would guess, my guess is we're going to have there'll be a formal press conference next week. Don't know that at the moment in terms of a date or time, but it is official. They have hired Bryan Blair. So there you go. I know we were all kind of waiting on it today, and it's happening.
Let's get him on. And I can ask him if he's ever smuggled something into a movie theater, Steve.
That'll be your first question.
Yeah.
I know you don't know us, but...
First question to new AD.
You've never done that? Like, we used to go down to the dollar store and buy the candy and sneak it in when we were kids. But back then, also, the movies cost $2.50, and I was going to see Goonies.
That's true. I don't know. Maybe I had something...
Why are you so angry?
Because
I'm asking you this.
There are bigger things to talk about than... we have literally 5 minutes left in our show, and this is how we're going to spend our time?
Yeah, everything's okay. So they got a new ID. What do you want? What more do you want to say about it? We don't even know what the guy looks like.
So here's the thing. So we got to be off the air in the next 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have two more segments, right? So this one and one more.
Yes.
Okay, it's official.
Right. Then we got Orange Nation Overtime, and like I don't want to be stuck here until 3:00. So we got stuff to do. So we got today's business. Who's it brought to you?
We
by,
don't
Paul?
have to do today's business.
Yeah, we do. It's a sponsored segment.
Sponsor. We got to hit it.
Who's it brought to you by?
Superior Plus Propane.
Steve, today's business. You ever dine and dash?
I've never done that.
I've never. You ever take a ketchup packet or two extra?
That's not stealing.
Yes, it is.
Did you ever take
an extra? It wouldn't be out if it was stealing.
Did you ever take like the glasses from a restaurant?
Oh, I have a Sizzler.
No.
I have a Sizzler ashtray. You remember you could just fire up a heater in the middle of the restaurant, Steve? Those are the good old days. You remember that? Be at the old Ponderosa eating a steak and having a Benson and Hedges.
Isn't it wild that we lived in a time
where you could smoke?
You could do that?
Well, I remember we could smoke at the radio station when I first started in radio. Like you could be doing your air shift. I'd be like, "Hey, that was Triumph." Let's take a break. Come back and wrap this.
How about? Why don't we just? Do you want to just end it now? I mean, it's 55.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that for 3 months, Steve.
Show in general, life. Which one?
I thought you never asked.
I mean, the show is technically over.
All right,
it's 55.
Cher,
okay.
Eric Clapton, REM, U2, Neil Sedaka. I think he just passed away. Cher, Clapton, REM, U2, Neil Sedaka.
You know about REM, right?
Yes, Steve.
I'm gonna go for REM.
I'm gonna go Cher.
I was gonna go Clapton.
All right.
Next one
decides.
in the Cuse Sports Talk chat under Florida guy. Cher, Clapton wins.
There you go.
All right.
His boss sandwiches cigarettes go really well with cocaine and Eric Clapton.
All right. So there's a new AD in place. Certainly more about that coming up tomorrow. And as things move along here, we're out of time. For Paul Lee, I'm Steve. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.